Content championship time!
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Harry
Semi-finals?
Potter. Yeah. We're deep in this bitch.
Excuse me?
You heard. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban
Yes.
versus Return of the Jedi. Ooh, baby. As always, we have 6 categories to help us meander our way through this. Personal relevance, how well it's aged, rewatchability, story, acting, cinematography / general visuals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just out the gate,
We have
I
magicians
think
with wands
yeah,
versus magicians with
I think
sticks.
I think we need this for the semi-finals and the finals. We love both of these films.
Yeah, we do. And both of these franchises.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have made it this far.
This is true.
But there can only be one winner.
Yep.
And I'm going to start with a hot take. I think this is one of the easier ones we've had in a little while.
Oh, shit.
Unless Horry's about to blow me away. But let's get started with personal relevance.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter, with us being two British-born kids, literally born perfectly for the Harry Potter franchise.
Yep.
It is no doubt quite pertinent to us. I
Yes.
read all 7 Harry Potter books in a 2-week holiday to my grandparents. I hadn't really been a big reader before that, but I took all 7 books. Like 4 of them were my brother's like versions that he had, and then 3 were like ones that had been bought for me because I was old enough to get the books now.
Right.
And I took them all down and I read them in 2 weeks because they lived on like it's not like a caravan park, it's like a retirement park. So there wasn't a lot to do as a kid there. It was a nice couple of weeks, but I just got to lay there for 4 days and power through 7 very good books.
Solid reading session.
Yes. If only I could muster that now. So I love Harry Potter as a franchise, and in my opinion, this is the best Harry Potter film by a mile.
Yep.
The thematic changes that we start to see as we go from 3 onwards are so great. You've got Lupin and stuff like that. It's awesome. There is nothing to dislike about this film as far as I'm concerned. Maybe it's rose tinted glasses, because I haven't seen it super recently, but I love this film so much.
See, I am obviously, as you said, we are the generation that grew up with the Harry Potter films coming out and the books at the same time. I wasn't a Harry Potter book reader. I haven't read the books. Something that's probably on like that list of to do one day. But yeah, I agree. Harry Potter for our generation was like a huge cultural thing. It was very impactful. Loved the films. This is, as you said, one of the better, like the best one. Is also one of my favorite ones. One that sticks in my mind a lot more than the others. But episode 6, Return of the Jedi. I mean, Star Wars, man. It's the original trilogy. It's the accumulation of that first story. It all comes together.
We get, I believe, the first green lightsaber in Star Wars history. We get Luke having gone away to learn, and he comes back to save Leia and Han. And he's this Jedi. We get the big fight. We get Jabba the Hutt. We get all that fight.
We get the redemption of Anakin.
Yeah. We get one of my earliest memories of learning about like looking for themes in films was finding out about Luke wearing black to show that he might turn to the dark, and then after the final battle, the flap opens up to show the white inside because he was always going to stay true to the light no matter what. It's just it was a moment when you like watch it and you understand it properly, because like you watch it before you understand it, obviously, but like I probably watched this film 3 times growing up before I started to understand the power of storytelling in films, and I adore this film so much.
And it's like that trilogy on its own, like, and this being the final part of it, like you say, sticks so strongly in our minds from being kids. of that like final part of this film with the like Vader redeeming themselves and all like it all coming together, and then it's like fall in love with Star Wars. Just from those three films, like that love of Star Wars was planted.
Yeah,
So it's kind of it's hard not to say that is very relevant to my love of nerdom and Star Wars.
exactly. How well it's aged. This, I will say, is probably two of the strongest contenders in the
Yeah,
entire bracket for how well it's aged.
this is true.
Harry Potter just refuses to die.
Yeah, and if anything
And
gets
I don't,
bigger,
yeah, and I don't mean that like in a bad way. Like, okay, it needs to be left to die now. Like, it just doesn't. Bearing in mind, it was 7 books. They've not written any more books. I mean, that they've done the Cursed Child play, but that's different. The
yeah,
last film came out in like 2010,
that was
2012,
ages ago.
maybe. Harry Potter
So long ago.
final film release. 2011.
Oh,
13 years. Just put that in perspective. 13 years ago was the last time any new Harry Potter like was opened up easily to the public because the Cursed Child's so difficult to get tickets for. I,
consider.
while working at the McDonald's down the road, have seen 6-year-olds in all-out Harry Potter homemade robes excited to go to a studio tour.
Yeah.
It is
I mean,
crazy.
on top of that, like we grew up in the UK. It was very much UK culture. It was very big here. It was obviously always going to be big in the UK. What's more impressive, I'd say, is it's got stronger over the years, even up to recently. Like I feel like the US and other countries have like there's a stronger fandom growing.
This year in Japan, they opened a second studio tour.
There you go.
They've taken some props from the one in London,
Mm-hmm.
and sent it over to Tokyo to create another tour experience out there.
There you go then.
Like, that's crazy. You've not released anything new in
Yeah, yeah.
13 years, and you're now building a new tour on the other. Like, literally, Japan's about as far as it gets from the UK.
Yeah. It's basically the other side from us.
Yeah, it's so impressive. Its staying power,
Yeah.
but potentially the only nerd franchise that has more staying power
Star Wars.
is Star Wars.
And a franchise that hasn't stopped growing, like
It's
content wise.
yeah,
They're
it's crazy. It's
considering
crazy.
that original trilogy has now, for better like ignoring our views on each individual trilogy and how well they did, but we've had 3 trilogies, multiple seasons of multiple shows. We've got a full long, like multiple seasons of an animated series,
And it's all
plus
been a
books.
financial success.
Yeah, plus there's books, there's comics, there's all this
There's
additional media, like
ongoing comics now.
games. Yeah, like
Because Disney owns Marvel and everything that comes with that, as well as Disney. Star Wars and Marvel came to a deal where now Marvel makes
Star Wars.
loads of ongoing Star Wars comics.
There you go.
So,
Like,
I went to look at my Forbidden Planet subscriptions the other day,
mm,
and one of the most popular subscriptions that Forbidden Planet has, because you can search by popularity, like the fourth most popular one, going up against Marvel and DC, is a Darth Vader comic ongoing.
that's pretty cool.
Like, that's fucking wild.
Yeah.
That's bleeding out of a film, because that's what they were. They were just films. There was nothing additional to them when they came out. It has bled out in so many different forms of media in a way that I think is so impressive. It is so difficult to go from the screen to paper over paper to a screen.
And I mean,
That's crazy.
You could even say the impact that those original trilogies with ILM had as well, and what that's done for the film industry. Like, yeah, they've just aged phenomenally. And that episode 6 got re-released recently. Like,
Yeah,
the love for that film is still there. It's held
big
in
time.
such a high regard. Like, and the other films, if anything, have just kind of somewhat grown in popularity since their release, some more than others. But like, yeah, that franchise is going strong.
Rewatchability. Now, both of these have been weak contenders in the rewatchability category because they're part of such large franchises, and we've always kind of said, I mean, there's just so much to watch, and you have to watch it all if you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
So I feel like rewatchability is actually a really easy category here because we've always said the less you have to watch, the easier it is to rewatch. And in that case, the Star Wars original trilogy is much easier to rewatch than all 7 Harry Potter films.
Yeah. I feel like I could sit and watch Prisoner of Azkaban and be happy enough watching it. Would I have
Ooh.
perfect recollection of what exactly happened before and be able to like jump straight in? Star Wars, I could chuck on episode 6. I'm more than happy being able to remember everything that happened before that.
But you wouldn't just chuck on episode 6.
I wouldn't, but if we were to just throw on the individuals, I would have a easier time watching episode 6
100%.
and remembering stuff because it's so ingrained than I would watching
But
Prisoner of Azkaban.
counterpoint, and this might be because of the people I know, but I feel like I know more people who will binge rewatch Harry Potter more regularly.
Oh, I
than
do.
people who binge watch Star Wars because I feel like Harry Potter is also a slightly easier watch.
Yeah. It's easier to spread out as well. Like you could watch one a night quite comfortably.
Yeah.
Whereas Star Wars, you have to, okay, we are committing to watching Star Wars.
Yeah.
No, I don't, yeah.
Story.
It's tough. Okay.
Prisoner of Azkaban is just stunning.
It is. And it's a great point in the story.
And I also
of the
think it's
whole
one of the
thing.
most self-contained books as well.
Yeah.
Like, yes, obviously it has bigger ramifications, but it's one of the better. Like the earlier books are all a bit more self-contained because we've not really got Voldemort back yet, which of course happens in number 4.
Yeah, it's all kind of ramping up.
But this is also like, naturally, because it's their 3rd year, it's the biggest story before it all interconnects, which
Yeah.
I think gives it a much richer feel. Because you're like, you can just read Prisoner of Azkaban and know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, I would
And
say
it's still like a big story.
the story is at that point, like you say, it's not quite got so interlinked that you can enjoy the story of just Prisoner of Azkaban quite comfortably.
Godfather escapes prison. He's a serial killer. Oh, wait, maybe he's not. Oh, my new teacher's a werewolf. Oh my God, my best friend's rats helped kill my parents. It has everything.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like, yes, episode 6 is a culmination of that original trilogy, but the story on its own, it's great and it wraps it all up very well. But it does need the first 2.
Absolutely.
You need that trilogy to really appreciate that whole story.
Put it this way. I think the best way we could articulate this. You just give someone who's never watched Harry Potter, knows nothing about Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. They will piece together pretty accurately the history of Ron, Hermione, and Harry. And like the relationships with other characters.
Yeah.
You give someone who's never seen or heard anything about Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, they're going to be a lot more confused.
Yeah, they're going to have way more
slight
questions.
on Return of the Jedi.
No,
because
it's just a...
Return of the Jedi was written as part of a trilogy.
Yeah.
Whereas the Harry Potter books were written one at a time.
Yeah.
Yes, she would have had a general idea of where she's going,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't all like ready to go.
Yeah, like that. How you're putting it is like, you're right. Harry Potter was individual books. Yes, there's an underlying theme and story throughout that is weaved in there and gets more complex as it goes on because a bigger picture is emerging. Whereas, let's be real, the Skywalker trilogy is like the Luke Skywalker one. It was a singular story, then chopped into 3 parts.
Exactly.
So it's like essentially you took one Harry Potter book and split it into 3. So,
like, if you gave someone Deathly Hallows Part 2 to watch, they would be fucking lost.
They'd be like, why? I need the rest of this.
Exactly. Like, even if you gave them Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 to watch back to back, they'd still be really lost. Because you're so deep in. After number 4 of Harry Potter, you need the pre-knowledge. But 1, 2, and 3 of Harry Potter are very easy to watch by themselves because, you need a bit of pre-knowledge, but most of that gets re-explained. You'll kind of understand everything else as you go.
Yeah.
Acting. This is the one place I am dead set on my feelings.
Okay.
Star Wars, while I adore it,
Mm-hmm.
it's very 80s sci-fi acting. It's got a sprinkle of that Shakespearean elegance that made 80s sci-fi so great,
Yep.
but it's a product of the times. George Lucas's script writing has never been his strongest suit, which I think does limit some of the actors' performances because it has stunning actors top to bottom.
Yeah. I would not disagree with that. I would say Star Wars is the acting is nothing spectacular. And like you say, George Lucas was he was a very creative person and very good at world building and building this universe of Star Wars and being able to articulate that to like ILM and visually sell this world that he's building. As you said, though, his script writing was weaker, which then meant the acting was a bit weaker in places.
Whereas Harry Potter,
Some of the best
they
child
just
acting.
cooked. They just cooked. They
They-
the children stunning. And the best bit was in Prisoner of Azkaban, they were all starting to get a little bit older now.
yes,
So
they were.
they'd
the
become a bit
past.
more professional. They had two
Yeah.
films under their belt. They knew what they were doing. They knew how to interact with directors. They were getting to the point where they were learning from the older, more experienced actors like Alan Rickman
Yeah.
and people
The
like that.
the
Like,
the essentially supporting cast of the three kids was like the best tutors they could have ever had. Like it was a
when you look at
stacked cast.
when you look at what Daniel Radcliffe has done as an adult and how good an actor he is, you can see the effects of Maggie Smith and Alan Rickman, who he was spending his entire childhood learning from.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's so impressive, and it's one of them things that I thought as I got older and started to be a bit more critical of films that I watched, I thought I would start to see the cracks in the acting. It holds up really, really well. Like,
They
obviously
did
it's a bit cheesy because it was a book that was initially meant for kids,
well, yeah,
but it holds up
and essentially
insanely well.
the films were also made for the first few were made for kids as well because it's like they want that generation to go with the films.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there was a bit of cheesiness there, but it's stacked cast and the script's great.
But as much as acting is very one-sided, cinematography is also one-sided, just on the other side.
Yeah.
Harry Potter is very, very good and I adore it. Its visuals were never a selling point. Towards the back end, when there was more action, they worked very hard on getting the quality of the magic looking brilliant. But there's like maybe one shot of film if you're lucky where you're like, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I will say
Wars.
Harry Potter did an excellent job of working with practical and selling this magical world through practical as well, and being very clever in the ways that they did stuff. I think you're right, though, it has like a certain look and feel to it. It only did so much. At the end of the day, it was some kids in a school. Like there's only like visual creativity there. Like there's only so much you can do.
Star Wars
Yeah.
made its money on being pretty. It made its money on blowing your mind. It literally changed filmmaking.
Yeah, and I like ILM, just the creativity that came out of ILM and the things they were able to create brand new and problem solve and make these and build this beautiful, stunning world and sell it on film. And it's like stuff that had never been done.
Harry Potter could only be as practical and as amazing as, and I've seen the tour, I've seen all their props, they worked so hard. It was amazing. They only did it that way because that's how Star Wars did it and blew everyone's mind.
100%.
Like, I don't think people fully understand how much Star Wars changed filmmaking at all levels.
Yeah.
Like, fundamentally.
ILM changed like the stuff that the problem solving they did to produce those films and what was done for Star Wars set like this new bar and ability of like what can be done for films and what is then available for films to use resource wise. So like you say, Harry Potter's idea of going that practical and using props and being that creative with props came from the likes of the problem solving that came out of making Star Wars.
Exactly. Again, before we get into the scoring here, we
We
love
love
both
them.
these films deeply.
If you haven't picked up on that, then something's wrong with you.
But it is time to start scoring stuff.
Yeah, only one of these can win.
It is. Would you say it's fair, because of our deeply emotional attachment to both here, for personal relevance to be a draw? Or do you
Yes.
still lean lighter one way?
I would personally, I would probably lean more towards Star Wars, but I'm also happy with that being a draw because I know it's very strong for both of us.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stick that as a draw then. How well it's aged is absolutely outrageous because both of these would win basically against anything else. But when you look at just the amount of survival time, Return of the Jedi is second to none.
Yeah, survival time and growth in that like IP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how well it's aged just got to go to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I would agree there.
Rewatchability. See, based on what we normally say, we would say Return of the Jedi because there's less films. But as we also said, the early Harry Potter films are very easy to watch by themselves.
I would actually lean to Harry Potter here as
Do
being
you
able to
think?
just jump in and rewatch.
Okay. So that would make it 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
Story.
It's so hard. I think we need to try and take it for each individual film. And as hard as it is to not think of the story of the trilogy and the whole Harry Potter story, if you think of the story told in Prisoner of Azkaban versus, I think there's a more self-contained story in Harry Potter, but I don't know if that makes it better.
Oh,
Where do you stand?
I really don't know. I do think. Okay, so here's the problem. My brain's doing the mental maths, and I'm seeing where this is going, and I'm disagreeing with it.
Oh, you're trying to rig it.
So, no, it's not that I'm trying to rig it, but I'm very well aware it's 1-1 right now. And it's going to be 1-1 after the next two. So this is actually the decider. That's
I
the problem.
think.
Let's go and do acting and cinematography first and come back.
Yeah.
So acting unequivocally goes to Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It's not close.
Yeah.
And then cinematography unequivocally goes to Star Wars.
Yeah.
And what that does is it makes it 2-2
Mm-hmm.
with the story as the tiebreaker. And the big question we have to ask ourselves is, are we taking Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban as a story versus Return of the Jedi as a story? Because if that's what we're doing, then Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban has to win. But I'm not sure, as much as I love both of these, I can sit here with a straight face and say that Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban beats Return of the Jedi.
But then now I think about it, it's like the story and the story beats told in Return of the Jedi are incredible.
They are.
I think personally, I do lean towards Star Wars. And there's personal bias comes into that a little bit. But I do think that original it's so hard not to just.
Okay, so is it fair to say then that our personal biases are trying to make us make this a Star Wars win, therefore personal relevance shouldn't be a draw and should be a Star Wars win?
I mean, yeah. If you're also wanting this to lean to Star Wars, then it should be.
I'll be honest, I came into this thinking, oh, Return of the Jedi is going to absolutely sweep Harry Potter here. I can't believe it's ended up being this close. This has caught me off guard. I was too relaxed.
See, I thought you were coming into this hoping for Harry Potter to sweep it.
No.
Expecting a fight.
I have my love of stuff, but I also know what's better.
To take us out of it a little bit, if this wasn't someone British having this discussion, Harry Potter wouldn't be anywhere near as close as it is right now.
What, in personal relevance?
Yeah, and like if you think about it that way, And like the general scheme of things, there is, yes, I know it's our personal relevance, but like when you pitch it that way, it's like, okay, Star Wars is leaning.
Okay, so we'll change personal relevance to Star Wars, which makes it
Okay.
3-2 Star Wars, and
Okay.
then story
Draw.
we call a draw,
Just to
and
get
that
out of
makes
this
it and
this
and that
pickle.
and that makes it 3-2 Return of the Jedi. That I don't know why we're trying to feel bad about like rigging it here. This is supposed to be based on our opinions,
Well, here's the
and
thing.
we both
We're
know Return of
struggling
the
on
Jedi is better.
story because they're both great. So at that point, it's a draw. And realistically, this then comes down to what is our personal choice on which is
Yeah,
better, which is personal relevance.
I think it's a testament to Harry Potter that it actually got that close to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.